Hi everybody, welcome to 5 Minute Ministries. Someone had asked me, what about original sin? Whose fault is that? Well, the short answer is Adam. Adam is at fault. He disobeyed God. God gave him one command, do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And Adam made a choice to eat from that tree that God said, do not eat from it. And therefore, because he sinned, it became part of his nature. And that nature was passed on to us. Romans 5:12 says, therefore, just as through one man sin entered the world, and death through sin, and thus death spread to all men, because all sinned. All of us are sinners because of what Adam did in the garden. Now, is it Adam's fault that we sin? Yes and no. It's in our nature to do so, but we still make a choice. Adam had free will. God did not make him a mindless, obedient slave. He gave Adam a choice, and he only gave him one commandment, and he couldn't even keep that. And we are given all kinds of commandments, and we can't keep them either. So while the nature is passed on to all of us, we still have free will to make a choice whether we obey God or we disobey God. Do we keep God's commandments or do we break God's commandments? Do we obey the authority God sets over us or do we disobey that authority? We make a conscious decision whether we obey or disobey. It is our own fault if we commit sin, and there's no other way around it. Now you may have the complaint that it's not fair. It's Adam's fault that we're sinners. Well, the bad news is that sin affects all kinds of people. Your sin is never private. It affects somebody else as well. And even if it doesn't affect a human being or seemingly affect a human being, it affects your relationship with God. If you do not have one through Jesus Christ, it still continues to keep you separated. God's standard is perfection. Not one single sin at any time in your entire life. Only one sin will cut you off from God. Adam proved that. It only took one sin to infect the world with a sin nature. So we are without excuse. What about those who have never heard of God? Well, they have a conscience, and the Bible tells us in Romans, if they go against that conscience, then they have violated God. Because God gave that to us to help us determine right and wrong, even if we've never heard of Him or His Word. So we are still without excuse. If you still think it's not fair, well, unfortunately, that's the consequence of sin. And as I've already said, your sin affects other people. Just like, for an example, a drunk driver hits a vehicle that has a family in it. Now, what happens to that family is the effect of the drunk driver's sin. Those people didn't do anything wrong, but his sin affected them. It always hurts somebody else. And it's not fair that the family got hurt or even killed, but because of the one sin, the consequences affected many. And that's what the Bible tells us. The sin of one man affected all of us. We are all cut off from God, and that's what the Bible means by being dead in sins. It means we are cut off from God, like a tree branch being cut off from a tree. It may live for a little while, but eventually it will die. And so will we. The only solution to this is Jesus Christ. The only solution is to repent of these sins, to trust that Jesus Christ is God, that He paid for those sins, that He rose from the dead, and we give our entire lives over to Him. While it may not be fair that we're all sinners, there is something that can be done about it, and it's only through Jesus Christ. This has been 5 Minute Ministries, and I'll see you next time.